Hello there, beautiful souls. This video is gonna be the start of something grand. For a little introduction to what these videos are gonna be like, it's gonna be definitely very mind-awakening information and nowhere near for someone that's close-minded and has a huge ego or someone that is a narcissist. Information on this page will be conquering the evil ego mind because, in my opinion, I think all of humanity's problems were caused because of the ego mind. Of course, be loving of all, live a happier life, and delete your fear of death. There is so much fear around the subject death. Nobody knows what it is, and it's time for humanity to wake up to our multidimensional selves. And, of course, live human life to the fullest. That's a small little introduction. This first video is going to be about the ego, which is a huge question most people have. Most people don't even know what it is, what it does. But here's a simple rundown for the first video on this channel. But simply, the ego is a physical part of your human brain that dictates who you are. When you think mentally to yourself, I did that, I hurt someone, or I love this person, you automatically assume I. But that I that the ego talks about is not really you. That I is just an illusion that the ego made up so you don't go insane, because if no one had an ego, we would just all be walking around like mindless robots. So the ego is good to grow up, but it is not good to keep living in. That brings me into pretty much the older you are, the harder it is to conquer the ego. I like using this visualization for the ego as vines just curling around your brain. When you're born, there's no vines, and those vines start wrapping and twisting all around your brain, and the more and more years you live in this ego, not realizing what it really is, then it's going to be harder to unwrap those vines. You can unwrap them with meditation, or of course psychedelics, but psychedelics will be in a different video, and meditation. The ego mind, it sees itself as a separate entity, and it wants to feel superior to everything else. If you ever get thoughts in your thought bubble in things like, oh, this person sucks, or I don't like this person, or maybe you compare yourself to someone if they have more materialistic things under their name, and then the ego is going to start beating itself up. And if you're convinced you are the ego as awareness, because our true nature is awareness, then you're gonna feel more depressed, you're gonna have anxiety, and most people don't even know where it's coming from, but it's all from the ego mind. It judges a lot. Depends. It can depend on genetics too. Some people don't judge as much, but there's also other categories that the ego does. My ego judged a lot of people, but that is no longer myself. I guess many individuals, they almost never realize how truly damaging the ego is, because the ego is born in this incarnation and it dies in this one. It doesn't know anything more. It doesn't know the spirit, it doesn't know soul, it doesn't know consciousness. All it knows is this one single life you are living. And when your thoughts start judging someone or comparing you to another human being, or even if you think someone is judging you, just ask yourself simply, is this my higher self or the ego mind, even the toxic ego mind? Because it's all it cares about is power, sex, money, materialistic garbage that you don't have ownership of after you die. So there's no point of collecting all these objects, maybe to give to your family when you pass away. it's fun for a little bit, you know, having super fast cars, going out to vacations, but you can't make that your whole life, because that at the end does not bring happiness. It never will be. It'll bring only temporarily happiness, and that's all it can bring. And last but not least, it is important to detach from the ego mind. This is difficult to do, especially in these modern ages, because our ancestors, they knew all about this. They knew spirituality, they knew ego, but unfortunately, as the churches, I'm not sure 100% what churches, but I think it was the Christian churches that murdered some ancestors. Maybe it wasn't yours, maybe not mine, but there were still ancestors with lots of ancient knowledge. They murdered them, burned down their sanctuaries, burned down their knowledge, everything, and that was the end of that. And humanity fell into the Dark Ages, and we still are in the Dark Ages. And it's time to wake up. And just too many people are afraid of death, and the thing that's afraid of death is the ego. Your higher self is not, because your higher self has been alive for eternity. It was never born, and it can never die. And that is what your identity needs to be. And at the end of the day, our whole purpose as humans and humanity on this planet should be love. We all need to love each other because we all come from the source. If you want to call that consciousness, awareness, you may even call it God or celestial energy, whatever resonates with you mentally. There's many terms to call this. Just call it whatever you wish to. There is no reason to argue with others, because some people like that term, some people like this term, and that's how it should be. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah, I'll be back.